Making my way through my backlog, I hit Timesplitters. I picked up all 3 games on the PlayStation 5, and I wanted to know what these games were about. I heard a lot of people talk about Timesplitters over the years, and I even briefly played Timesplitters 1 on the PS2 way back when, but it was just the multiplayer. I know these games are heavily praised, but I want to see if they still hold up today. Before we continue in this review, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the hype button. I'm grateful to Jehovah God and Jesus Christ for bringing each and every one of you to my channel, as I know you guys could be doing anything right now, but you decided to watch little old me, and I know it's because of them. I'm grateful for each and every one of you for stopping by, and I hope you guys enjoy this review. Now let's get back into it. Now, one thing I already know about Timesplitters is that it's developed by ex-Rareware developers, the people who made GoldenEye. What I didn't realize at the time playing Timesplitters is that Timesplitters was actually a launch title for the PlayStation 2, and that's very helpful information because anyone playing this game today might feel like this game is missing tons of content. Like, there's really no story. There's a story mode, but there's like no context behind what you're doing or why you're doing it. The whole game just kind of feels like a tech demo, and it kind of is one. Thanks to games like GoldenEye, first-person shooters on consoles were becoming more and more popular. And of course, having a multiplayer game at launch is good for any console, even if that game is really bare bones like Timesplitters. When you first boot up Timesplitters, like I said, there's like no context for anything. You don't get a feel that there's anything connecting these characters or anything that you're doing together. You just kind of select a level with very basic font. There's no description of the level really or what you're going to do in it. You get 2 characters you can choose from, a male or a female, and they do animate well, they're designed well, and they seem to have a bit of personality for each character, but again, with no context given to any of them, it really doesn't hit home as it should. So you're just plopped into a level, and there's plenty of levels all throughout time, and they actually have guns reflecting the time period. Each level is basically you running through the level until you find a particular object, and then you basically having to run your way all the way back to a base. So that basically just makes the whole campaign a one-time game of capture the flag. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not that simple. These stages in the story mode have particular spawn locations and interesting moments here or there. Like one time I think I flipped a switch, woo! But there are moments, jokes aside, where you could tell that the developers placed the enemies in locations and places that no person could be able to reach, because all these maps are actually in the multiplayer, and we'll talk about that later. But you can clearly tell there's a distinction between this just being a bunch of bots running around versus designed AI specific for these missions. Now, that doesn't mean they do anything particularly interesting. They are just hiding behind cover and shooting at you. The reason why it does work in Timesplitters is how good the shooting feels. All the guns have nice designs, although these graphics overall are kind of blurry, but you could still tell the potential of what they had in the designs of the guns and even the environments. Guns sound very powerful and punchy, and because this game is based off of GoldenEye, when you shoot enemies, they actually dynamically interact with the bullets. So if you shoot them in certain locations, you might see them flinch in areas, or they'll fall over kind of funny. They don't just drop down and die. They animate pretty well, and that adds to the feel of the gameplay. Now, because this is based off of GoldenEye, there's no hands on the guns, and when you reload, you just kind of drop the gun and lift it back up. That's very old school. I can imagine people today not liking that. A lot of us like to see the guns being reloaded, and we like to see all the little details. That's just not here in this game, but it did not bother me. Now, what remains the same from GoldenEye is how the whole game is controlled. The only thing different now is that you have dual analog sticks to control the camera. But for those who do not know, the original GoldenEye was actually going to be a light gun, light shooter. That's why when you go in first person, it's just a cursor on the screen, and you can move the cursor around and shoot. That is still here. There is no aiming down sight or even that weird kind of just zoom forward that some games did back in the day. It is the light gun cursor aiming brought back from the N64. Now, it's not a big deal because this game also brings back the old school Doom auto aiming. So just like GoldenEye, like Doom, and a lot of old school shooters, the auto aim is on your gun. Now, this isn't all modern shooters, where if you're basically just aiming in the general direction, the bullets will hit the target. But in older shooters like this, you can really feel like you know that you're not really aiming at the player, and the gun is kind of auto moving in the direction to the character that you're trying to aim at. You don't really have to aim much in this game. You would think that would make Timesplitters less challenging and not as fun as other shooters where you have more control, but not really. In the same way that Doom is still fun to this day with you just aiming in the general directions of the monsters, that's the same concept here with Timesplitters. Yes, the enemies, you don't really have to be pinpoint accurate to take them out, but because they do a lot of damage to you and they have all these funky animations that are pretty cool to look at, but dangerous when you're trying to read where they're going to go left or right with. So having auto aim is actually beneficial to the animation system they have, but it also just works here because the game remains challenging throughout. This is an old school shooter. There is no health regeneration. You need to find health packets or shields in order to survive. And with well-placed enemies and giving them very powerful guns, you're not going to miss the accuracy of a Call of Duty or a Battlefield. You're just going to have fun running and gunning around these stages. And the challenge is actually remembering where each enemy is, what gun they may be carrying, the position that you're in. So you're focusing more dodging the bullets than actually trying to shoot your bullets at the target. It's a different way to take on a first-person shooter. But if anyone's familiar, like I said, with very old school shooters like Doom, Wolfenstein, I'm talking about the old stuff, then this will be familiar to you. And sticking with the time gimmick of this game, because you're going to be jumping all throughout time, you will get to play with tons of different guns. Now, I won't sit here and lie to you and say that all the guns are really all that different. In some eras, yes, the shotgun is a shotgun is a shotgun is a shotgun, but then you have unique guns just for the time and era that you can't find in any other levels. Not only that, but the characters you play as, Radical Design was actually pretty smart in making some levels. It's not that many that do this, but some of the levels you could tell that your character could take way more damage than normal. For instance, one of the last levels in this game, you play as a robot. And I mean, we don't know how robots react to bullets, but you would imagine in a video game setting, a robot can take way more damage than a human. And that's why in this level, I find myself getting shot way more often, but my health wasn't dropping as quickly. And I think that's because they wanted to show that this character is different than other characters. And it's the little details in this game that make it stand out. Once again, you can't get past the fact that this game does feel like a tech demo. It feels barren, but it's still fun. And that's something very special to say about Timesplitters. It's something that, you know, most people would say a game like this, you should probably skip. There's no reason to play it. And you could probably make that argument that there's really no reason to play it out of history, but it's still a good game, especially the campaign, where I can say if you just want a game to turn on, run through a few quick levels, learn the stages, shoot up a bunch of bad guys and run back to a base, it's easy to recommend as a pickup and fun game. Now, there are a few stages I feel that the controls, these old school controls, don't work well in. One stage that comes to mind is the zombie stage. It's a whole stage where you're basically in a haunted mansion full of zombies. The only way to kill the zombies, you have to get a headshot off. Once again, because it's using the classic N64 design, to explain for those in detail that don't know how this works, when you're aiming down sight in this mode, you kind of just move the gun all around like a light gun, like I said. So the characters aim, the gun and the camera doesn't move at the same time. It's just the gun moving around. So you stay in place unless you decide to use the other analog stick to move the character. The gun just moves about all over the screen. Imagine playing with the Wii remote or playing in VR. It's kind of like that. And that's very difficult because you're fighting these zombies and these creatures that you can only get headshots on to take out. This was the hardest stage for me to beat because this is one of the ways that Timesplitters increases the difficulty. The further you get in the game, the less health packets they give you. And I played the game on normal. And for those who don't know, Timesplitters is notoriously known for its difficulty settings. Easy, normal, and hard really means something here. And I played the game a bit on easy, and trust me, it is easy. Like, it's almost mind-numbingly easy. But if you play on normal, it's a pretty challenging game. I don't even want to know what it's like on hard. But going back to the aiming, anytime you just need to shoot guys and just run around with the auto aim, the game is fine. But asking me to be precise with getting headshots with the control scheme that would work better if it was actually a light gun game or something I could use motion controls with, yeah, that's where the game started to lose me. But thankfully, this was just like a one-off mission. But overall, this is where I was saying, man, I really wish I had standard controls. Before this, I thought the controls were old school, but fine, because they designed all the encounters around these controls. But this one moment, I was like, no, these controls suck for this. Anything asking for precision should not be required in a game that relies on auto aim shooting. I really had to pray to Jehovah God and Jesus Christ for this mission because I'm telling you, there are no checkpoints. And this is one of the hardest missions in the game. Matter of fact, the very beginning of this zombie level, It's trying to teach you that you can only take the zombies out by headshots, and they just put you in a box. And until you realize that's the only way to kill them, you're just gonna die here because they'll just keep getting up. And then the level trolls you because where the ending gate is, about time you get to the end, unless you're just great at this game, you're gonna have barely any health and you're gonna be making to the end goal by the skin of your teeth. But then they put this little sneaky guy under this little dot that can shoot you. Thankfully, God told me to go ahead of all of this, and I took that guy out before I even went there. And that's something I want to tell you that's so cool about Timesplitters. As simplistic as it is, like I said, you can basically just say the campaign to just capture the flag. As simplistic as it is, when you finally get the object in the level, it spawns in the Timesplitters. It spawns in like these creatures that do a lot of damage. And there's also just the regular enemies in the stage that might pop up too. So you kind of just have to run to the end, and it's no reason to sit there and try to fight them all. In some instances, you need to fight a couple guys to get to the goal, but really you should just be trying to run as fast as you can. Keep in mind, there's like no run button in this game. You just run at the same speed no matter what you do. But that's what's so cool about this game, because I was sitting here like doing what I used to do as a kid, where I'm like imagining I'm running faster than what I'm doing in a game. And that's not nostalgia speaking, because once again, I don't get nostalgic, and I didn't play this game like that when I was a kid. I played the multiplayer like a few times, so I have no real recollection of the game. But that feeling of imagining I'm running faster in the game, like that feeling of, it's just like when you play any game and you kind of get immersed into the game. Games don't really immerse me as much as they used to, and I felt immersed in Timesplitters, which tells you that even though this game is barren, even though this game is missing a lot of modern content, or not even modern content, for back then this game was missing content, it's still a fun game. It feels like a concept, or like I said, a demo that was solid enough to pass as a full release. Now, Timesplitters doesn't end with its campaign. There's also multiplayer modes. Now, I can't play multiplayer with this game. There's no online multiplayer, and I have no one around me to play the game with. But you can play with bots. And for the most part, the bots are competent enough where you can sit here and say, oh, okay, that was cool, and you'll probably never do it again, because the bots aren't that smart. Again, that's why I know there's a difference between the curated AI they have for the campaign versus the bots they just throw in multiplayer, because they're really stupid in multiplayer compared to the campaign. But if you want to goof around and just shoot up a bunch of bots all day, yeah, you could do this. There's also a level editor. Again, I think this level editor for the time, or even now, is actually pretty well made. It's pretty easy to understand. And again, if we were back in the year 2000 and we were still going over each other's houses, then yeah, I could see myself creating a stage and then asking my friends to come over, and then we play on my stage that we created or whatever. But as of now, it's just, you know, it's just a relic of the time. You can't really do much with it today. Even on PlayStation 5, there's no way to play this game online or share your stages online. It's just something that only can exist locally. So unless you have a household full of people that have nostalgia for Timesplitters, or maybe some kids that don't mind playing older games, maybe they'll get into it. But other than that, it's just a mode here for today. In 2026, it's just a mode that exists on the disc, or in my case, the hard drive. Then there's challenge mode. And again, challenge mode, cool concept, nothing wrong with it. It's just extra content. But again, one of the earliest challenges has you fighting off zombies again, and you can only move around in this really tiny box. And if you move outside of it, an alarm that's annoying goes off. If you get hit like more than once, you die. This just isn't fun. Again, this feels like a idea they had to make the game be padded out more, because essentially they're just using the same code and the same AI that they had from the campaign and just putting you into smaller scenarios. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't feel like they were really fleshed out that well. There was another one I did where I had to like kill a bunch of like guys in chicken suits or something like that, or ducks or whatever. And they wanted you to kill so many of them within a time limit. And this map that they're on is pretty big, so they're running all over the place. And I'm just like, they're not putting up much of a challenge either. So at some point, it just became like mindless and boring. I think if they were made better, this could have been a cool mode, but it just felt boring most of the time. There was also another mission I played where it was essentially capture the flag, but I was like the only one on my team, and the other two NPC teams had a bunch of people. And again, because the NPCs are so stupid, it really wasn't a challenge. And yes, again, they do get harder, and you can get a better challenge, but I don't think most people are going to even want to go through the easier stuff to get to the harder stuff, because that's how this game works. You have to do the first few missions to get to the harder ones. and it was just boring, and I don't see the point in playing it. But as far as Time Splitter goes to its campaign, or if you're someone that might find the extra content fun, I think Time Splitters is a solid game to this day, especially if you have people you could play the game locally with. The game may be simplistic, but the guns feel good, the shooting feels good, the levels are unique. There's a lot of destructibility in the levels, a lot of things break in, the enemies react to the bullets in cool ways, which I think is a missing thing in games now. Although I wish the game had a story, I still got a kick out of seeing like the different characters on the select screen animate, and they have all different designs. This game kind of, kind of a little bit horny going on, but that was the time period. That doesn't bother me. I'm just mentioning that for anyone that does bother. But there's some designs in here that you'll be like, oh, okay, this is the year 2000. But overall, I gotta say, Time Splitters was a fun game. I had fun beating Time Splitters. It doesn't take long to beat. It can be challenging near the end, especially that zombie level. My favorite level is probably the one with the robot, because you're in like a robotic city. You find all these robots, a bunch of explosions. You gotta take out these turrets. Another level I love was like in China, where you have to go through this restaurant and you're like going through the kitchen shooting up all the bad guys. I thought that was pretty cool. And there was this whole level basically about sniping. There's some other gunplay here, but mainly what you did was snipe through this level. This is where the game's challenge started to pick up a bit for me. And overall, I could say there's really no bad level in the campaign. Now, yes, that zombie level, again, because it requires accuracy, isn't the greatest, but it was still a fun time. And that's just what I can say overall about Time Splitters. I'm still saying that Time Splitters is an okay game, because essentially what you're getting is a barren campaign and a bunch of other content that I don't feel is bad. It's just uninteresting. It's something that I think for the year 2000, for anyone that just bought a PlayStation 2, this barren campaign back then would have been fine. Even though there were other shooters you could have pointed to, you probably would have felt like, oh, the PlayStation 2 is a new generation. Maybe they sacrificed the campaign because, they had to give us these better graphics, because, the graphics are better than the previous generation. The gun sounds and all that stuff is better. Then you get all this extra content, plus you get a map editor. You could play multiplayer with your friends. So I can see how someone during that time could rationalize the missing content as not being a big deal because of all the other stuff you got. But in 2026, for someone who's never played this game before, you really just have a solid story quotations mode and a bunch of extra content that I could see you fiddling around with but never playing again. For anyone that has nostalgia for this game and still thinks it holds up, I think you're going to have a blast with Time Splitters, just like you did back in the day. But for anyone that's getting into it now, I think it is something you should pick up, nothing you should rush out and get, but it is something from the past that still holds up to this day. And I think it is a good game overall, but because it's lacking so much and a lot of the content is just kind of I'm going to just say it's an okay game. Once again, thank you all for watching this Time Splitters review. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the hype button. I'm grateful to Jehovah God and Jesus Christ for bringing each and every one of you to my channel, as I know you all could be doing anything right now, but you guys decided to watch little old me, and I know it's because of them. Let me know what you think of Time Splitters in the comments. Did you play it back in the day? Do you still enjoy it now? Did you happen to pick it up on a PlayStation sale? These games go on sale. These are one of the few like PlayStation classic games that actually go on sale for like a couple of dollars. It's worth $1. It's like, I think I got the game for like $2 or something on sale. It's worth that. Let me know how you feel about Time Splitters in the comment section. Peace out, keep gaming, God bless, and I'll see you guys in the next video.